If I tell you Sony, the first thing that comes in your mind is probably the PlayStation, because it's the most famous product. If you're born in the 80s, you may think of the Walkman, and if you're born in the 90s, you can think about Sony Ericsson phones. I had some phones from this company, and they were so great that in 2011 I chose Sony Ericsson as a brand for my first Android smartphone. I'm Xperia, and welcome in this new video where we're gonna talk about why Sony should make more smartphones. Today we see a lot of new brands. We got OnePlus, we got Xiaomi, we got Oppo, and so on, together with some more historical and most famous other brands like Samsung, like Huawei, and so on. But if you paid attention, you probably noticed that we don't see Sony very often when we talk about smartphones. And that's probably because Sony makes a lot of different products. They go from TVs to headphones, from consoles to laptop to cameras and so on. But if you look at the history of Sony smartphones, you can definitely find something very interesting. Okay, I want to start with my first smartphone, the one that I mentioned before, which is the Sony Ericsson Xperia Mini Pro. That smartphone back in 2011 wasn't probably the best smartphone and wasn't the best looking of all because it was small and chubby, but it was kind of cute, honestly. The Sony Ericsson Xperia Mini Pro was the first smartphone to feature a physical QWERTY keyboard, and that's the reason why I chose it between the huge amount of smartphones available at the time. Now you can say, hey Xperia, but BlackBerry has been making phones with physical QWERTY keyboard for years. Yeah, that's true, yeah, totally true. But as I said before, the Xperia Mini Pro was the first Android smartphone to feature a physical keyboard, while BlackBerry was using their own OS until 2015 when they released the BlackBerry Pre, that was their very first smartphone with Android. The Xperia Mini Pro is only an example for the great, cool and noticeable smartphone that Sony has made. Let's take for example the Xperia Solar, which apparently is a normal smartphone, but if you look at the design, that was really interesting back when it was released, because in fact it seems like the screen and the body, the chassis of the phone were kind of two separate things, were kind of detached. It almost looked like it was a chocolate bar on top of a cookie. Yeah, I should definitely stop thinking about food. Even because I gained some weight, you probably can see it, but I gained something like 2-3 kilos, and that's really bad. There was the Xperia U as well that was freaking cool, trust me. The Xperia U could look like a normal smartphone, but if you pay attention, you may notice that first, it has a very huge notification LED that goes all around the phone, and second, it had a swappable button piece. As you can see from the image, this button piece was swappable. It was available in different colors. Sony used to sell it separately. Another phone that looked forward to the future was the Xperia Z Ultra. Why this phone looked to the future? You have to think that the media made up a word just because of this phone, phablet. The reason why they made up this new word was because the Xperia Z Ultra was huge. It featured a screen of 6.4 inches. Trust me, for that time, that was huge. The common screen size was between 5 and 5.5 inches. In fact, the Xperia Z Ultra was in between a smartphone and a tablet. That's why they made up the word phablet. It wasn't neither a phone, neither a tablet. It was a phablet. But of course, if you look around today, you can see that all the smartphones have a 6 inches screen. In fact, nowadays we go around 6 to 6.4, 6.5 inches. My iPhone 12 Pro that I'm using to record this video right now is 6.1 inches, I think. And the iPhone 12 Pro Max is 6.7. Obviously, 8 years ago things were different. And why today we got almost bezel-less phone, back in 2013, bezels were huge. But this shows perfectly that Sony always looked to the future. In fact, the most famous of Sony's smartphones is probably the one related with the most famous product as well, the PlayStation. And the Xperia Play born with an idea in mind, to make a bridge between the consoles and the smartphones. The Xperia Play was the true gaming smartphone, and back in 2011 it featured a D-pad, it featured 2 touch-sensitive analog, 2 triggers, and the classic triangle, X, circle, and square button that made the PlayStation famous. But unfortunately, it was released in a time where there weren't any games that could use that set of controls. In 2011, the most famous Android game were Temple Run, Jetpack Joyride, Plant vs Zombies. I mean, this kind of smartphone games that doesn't need this many controls. So an Xperia Play was pretty useless. But if you jump 10 years later to 2021, the year we are currently living right now, you can see that there are a lot of companies that are investing and they are releasing more and more gaming smartphones, but none of them slides up to reveal a full set of controls. If Xperia Play would have been released right now in 2021, that would have fit so perfectly today. Because 10 years later, phones became more powerful, obviously. Now we can run games like Fortnite, PUBG, Call of Duty. Then we got some other old-fashioned game like the GTA series, San Andreas, Vice City. We got the cloud gaming as well. We got Google Stadia, we got Nvidia GeForce Now. And having a phone that includes already all the controls that you need to play, that is really wonderful. Before we get to the conclusion, I want to tell you that in the description down below you will find the link to the GSM Arena website. That is the website that I used to take this image from and to do my researches. This video is not sponsored by GSM Arena, nothing at all. It's just a cool website that works as some kind of database for all the smartphones. Okay, the latest smartphone released by Sony is the Xperia Pro. And this phone is not for everyone, because it's way too expensive. It costs over 2 grand. It is the first smartphone to feature a mini HDMI port, and not an output port, but an input. So Sony made up a smartphone that you can use as an external monitor. First of all, you have to be a professional, you have to be a filmmaker. Obviously, it doesn't cost this much only because of the HDMI input. It has some wonderful cameras in collaboration with Zeiss. It has a 5-axis stabilizer. Alright, let's get to the conclusion now. The whole point of this video is to show that Sony has always had the future in mind. They always made smartphones that were years in the future. And it's a shame that Sony doesn't care this much about their smartphones. I mean, I don't see any hype behind the announcement of a Sony smartphone. I don't see people watching live streams of Sony's new products. I don't see this much of communication by Sony. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, OnePlus announced their brand new phones. But before the launch event, there was a lot of communication. They started to share pictures, videos, they teased us with details, with images. They created this hype behind these new phones, and in fact, I was right there on YouTube watching the live stream. And that could sound weird as well, but I never seen anyone using a Sony smartphone. Okay, I work with a lot of different persons. Any one of them have different phones. I can see people using an iPhone, people using a Samsung phone, people using a Xiaomi, an Oppo, but I've never seen any single person, any single soul in this world using a Sony smartphone. As I said, that's a shame because in the past they made a lot of good smartphones, and I think that they should put more interest in this category of product. And that's funny, by the way, because 5 minutes before I started to record this video, I went on Instagram and I saw this picture saying that they got a new announcement for the Xperia series on the 14th of April. So they probably heard me out. And obviously, on the 14th of April, I'm gonna be there to see these new products. So, dear Sony, if you're watching this video, please put more attention in your smartphone. We're finally at the end of this video. If you liked it, leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and as always, the comment section down below is open. So, from Xperia is everything, I'll catch you in the next video.